Even though Resident Evil 4 Remake released almost 2 weeks ago, it feels like new things are steady on the way, with a lot of great information to talk about, and it's just a super exciting feeling overall. There are some mind-blowing details we will be talking about in this video that have been in front of our eyes the whole entire time. Some of you guys won't believe it when you hear it, so I recommend you stay until the end because it's going to get pretty deep. Going forward, we have free DLC, leaked DLC, and the ending of the game basically showing us the direction the devs will be taking towards the next game and future of Resident Evil. This video will have spoilers for the end of Resident Evil 4 Remake, so if you have not beaten it yet, click off. But before you do that, hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you can stay up to date on all the latest Resident Evil news. And come back here after you beat the game to watch this video. You don't want to be anywhere else, and we got you all covered, guys. We are live tonight. Just got to the island on the slowest playthrough of RE4 Remake, and we'll be switching to PC version after we beat the game tonight. So hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on it. We might be live right now as you're watching this, actually. So come by and say hello in the chat. If you're still here, good. Let's get into the video. After Resident Evil 4 Remake, a lot of fans are wondering if we're getting a Resident Evil 9 or Resident Evil 5 Remake. I personally don't mind what comes next, whether it's RE9, RE5 Remake, or a Code Veronica Remake, which a lot of fans really want to see badly. Comment below which game in the series would you love to see next. For Resident Evil 9, I would really want to see Jill as the main character, or at least return for the story of that game. I feel like she's been MIA for a while. However, when it comes to the end of Resident Evil 4 Remake, it sort of shows us exactly where things seem to be heading, and it's looking to be a Resident Evil 5 Remake. This is evident from the final cutscene of the game, where Ada Wong is talking to Wesker, and we could see on Wesker's screen his next plan involves the underground garden where the progenitor virus was extracted in RE5, as well as his partner Exeligione in the top left of the screen, who is also in RE5. I'm not mad at it personally because I played RE5 probably the most out of all the Resident Evil games in the series. I had a lot of fun playing with my friends and family, and the co-op experience was phenomenal. Now that we know what direction they'll be taking the series after Resident Evil 4 Remake, it sort of makes me realize they were testing mechanics for RE5 Remake the whole time in RE4, which is a common thing Capcom does with all their remake games. The AI of Ashley has been super revamped and functions way better than it did previously, and possibly better than most games that do feature an AI companion. And also, we've had some small co-op segments with Leon and Luis, where the AI controls Luis as well as tosses you ammo, just like the co-op teammate would do in Resident Evil 5 Remake. I was thinking about it, and after seeing how Resident Evil 3 Remake came out, then Capcom went towards releasing Village, and then after that we got RE4 Remake, we'd be seeing a new trend where they split a remake release with a new mainline title in between each other, and we'd be seeing Resident Evil 9 next. That very well still could be the case, but it's left to be seen, since now it's looking like Resident Evil 5 Remake is coming next, or at least is within the next 2 releases. We also know from the leaked Ada Wong DLC voice lines, she will also have AI co-op segments with Luis and her story, just like Leon did. She has a lot of in-game voice clips which specifically mention and talk to Luis. And while it hasn't been confirmed or denied yet, I do not think Mercenaries mode for RE4 will launch on Friday with co-op. I can totally see Capcom pulling a Resident Evil Village, and way after the release of RE4 Remake, maybe in a few months or even a year from now, we could see them coming back around to expand and patch in co-op to Mercenaries, as well as release essentially a testing ground for more Resident Evil 5 Remake aspects with co-op and other new possibilities. Because RE5's Mercenaries mode was co-op too, and it was hella fun. Resident Evil 5 was the highest selling Capcom game of all time up until 2018 when Monster Hunter World dethroned it. Right now, Resident Evil 4 Remake is on pace to shatter the company's records, selling a whopping 3+ million in the first 2 days alone. And to be clear, I don't think it will surpass Monster Hunter World. That'd be amazing, but it's too difficult to expect that from a single player game with no multiplayer replayability. It's been almost 2 weeks since we got the initial sales numbers for the first 2 days, and we have no new reports as of yet where it is currently, but I could totally see it easily being over 6 million total right now, which is being generous based off of the first 2 days alone. Capcom has reported that the company's stocks as well are at an all-time high, nearing a total value of $10 billion for the entire company's worth. They are seeing their stocks reach a peak of 4,840 Japanese yen per share, which is about $37 US. By far their largest of all time, surpassing 2021, the previous peak, and before that, it's not even close. The company seems to be in an amazing spot right now where they can do no wrong. Well, at least some wrong when it comes to voice direction. So seeing these crazy numbers, it would not be unexpected of them to try to capitalize on the wild sales for the previous reigning champ Resident Evil 5 with a remake. Since, its co-op multiplayer nature would boost the sales even more people will want to play with others, and the gameplay can have a longer impact in terms of replayability. Now, how long can we expect to wait until we see Resident Evil 5 Remake? Well, when you think back and look at it, Resident Evil 2 Remake released in January 2019, and then Resident Evil 3 Remake released shortly after in April of 2020, about 15 months later. They were able to do this so quickly because Capcom hired M2 Studios to help them out. They had two teams working on two different projects side by side so they could release within a short window of each other. Now, the big problem with this, sadly, Resident Evil 3 Remake was a disappointing release for many longtime fans. It could have easily been the best game in the series, but they sadly cut corners and content. It's still a good game in some ways for newcomers like myself, but for the most part, it's just not a great remake. Capcom learned firsthand from this, trying to emulate Call of Duty. Releasing a game yearly just is not the best practice for quality. Between the lower sales and poor reviews of Resident Evil 3 Remake, the fan feedback was definitely felt. I still feel bad for those who bought RE3 Remake at a full price. It definitely should not have costed $60. If it were maybe $30 or $40, I could see the feedback being a little bit better in their favor, but ultimately Capcom realized they made a mistake, especially after all the praise Resident Evil 2 Remake had already received so shortly before it. This workflow of splitting the work between two studios just isn't gonna cut it, so they held off on Resident Evil 4 Remake and instead focused on Resident Evil Village to try to win the hearts back of fans, and regulated M2 to a support role. Because you don't want to do Resident Evil 4 Remake fans like what you did to Resident Evil 3 Remake fans. That's just a war crime on greatness. I don't know if M2 will ever get a chance again to work on a mainline title, but I did hear that while the main team worked on Resident Evil 4 Remake, M2 was working on Mercenaries mode and the Ada Wong DLC, splitting the load but not giving them full reins of the main game. It's possible that RE5 Remake could come out as soon as 1 year from now, like what they did with Resident Evil 3 and Resident Evil 2. I mean, Resident Evil 4 Remake looked really good, and seeing RE5 in the RE engine would definitely be a high quality experience, but I don't think that's a great idea even if they are the main devs working on it. They should take some time off and have M2 work on DLC or new additions to Mercenaries mode for Resident Evil 4 Remake. Keep the traffic alive and the service, like co-op implementation or Luis Serra DLC. Even a Krauser DLC can work, talking about Operation Javier. Seriously, Capcom, take your time with Resident Evil 5 Remake, because there are a lot of opportunities there to blow the sales out of the water, whatever your next project is. Either way, you guys are going to be making a lot of money in the process, especially if the project is nailed right. They did a pretty damn good job with Resident Evil 4 Remake, so I don't think they want to fumble the bag. What do you guys think about all this? My mind is racing at all the possibilities, and Resident Evil 4 Remake only recently just came out. I do not know how I'm going to survive over the next 2 years while we wait for the announcement on the next new thing. But till then, make sure you like the video if you enjoyed and subscribe if you are new. More Resident Evil news is on the way, and you do not want to miss that. My name is BltzZ, and thanks for watching.